Look for it, find it, make it your own. It's the Get Thrifty Podcast.
Hey Thrifties, welcome back to the Get Thrifty podcast brought to you by ARC Thrift Stores. ARC Thrift Stores is a nonprofit thrift store chain. I am your host, Maggie Civic, and we are all about sharing everything that has to do with shopping secondhand. So if you're part of our unique thrift culture, please contact us. We would love to promote your business and your social channels and share your stories and advice with our listeners. As always, you know where to find us on Instagram and YouTube at ARC Thrift. Send us a DM and let's chat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty excited for this particular episode. Her name is Leah. Leah is a thrift evangelist, writer, preacher, family woman, and Midwesterner transplanted to New England via 10 years in the South. We're going to ask about thrifting in all three places. Her goal is to ignite and refuel your love of thrift. Leah, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Maggie. I'm excited to be here.
We are jazzed to have you. You have a unique story, and I'm like fascinated with your Instagram, like how clean it is and how minimalist. We'll get into that, but let's start by letting people know how they find you on all the socials so they can follow along as they listen today.
I am only on Instagram as far as social media goes at Thrift Shop Chic, no spaces, no underscores, Thrift Shop Chic. And then also I have a blog that I haven't updated in a long time, but it does have a lot of good stuff at thriftshopchic.com.
I do like your blog content. I got to tell you, I went down the road of like minimalism for your closet, for your toddler's closet. So I will ask about a couple of those things because I do think it's fascinating, but super easy to find on Instagram, Thrift Shop Chic on Insta. And you guys will love this total minimalism. Before we go any further, can you tell us like what was the inspiration to make it so clean and so exact? Like, you're almost in the same pose in every picture. It's amazing.
I'm just lazy. No, it was lighting actually. So trying to find a spot where I could get a good natural light, which not all of them have that. It's hard to take an outfit photo at the same time every day, but there's a spot outside my house that has a little ledge where I can put my phone on selfie mode and take a picture. So that's it. I figured it out. It worked. And I have not strayed from it since.
Yeah. And it's a warm, I don't know what it is. It's comforting to me. Sometimes like I look at people's grids and I'm like, oh my God, where do I even start? What do I click on? Yours is okay. I get it. I totally get it. And it makes you feel like comfortable. You know what to expect. And then people can ask you about the outfit and engage with you, which I totally enjoy too. Let's back up though. How did you get here? How did you decide to put this all on social media, and where did your love of secondhand really start?
When I graduated college, my first job was on the Gulf Coast, helping to rebuild after Hurricane Katrina. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of work. And the nearest Target was like an hour and a half away because everything had closed down. And so I just got used to wearing what I had. There were a couple of thrift stores that started to open up again. And I was living with somebody, shout out to my junior high best friend, Rachel, who got me thinking about consumerism and sustainability and resources. And I just, as an idealistic 20-something, was like, I'm not going to shop retail anymore. There's no need. I don't need to cause.
Oh, yeah. And when you're seeing the destruction, oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So I thought I don't need to add to the need for new clothes that are being produced in the world. And I've stuck with it since then. So it's been like 18, 19 years that I'd say probably 95% of my clothes are thrifted.
That is like a total commitment. I have to know, what were you doing down Katrina? I remember like that whole thing, and people going down there was a huge deal. So were you helping walk us through that?
I was coordinating volunteer teams that were coming from other parts of the country to come help rebuild houses that had been damaged or build new ones. And then I stayed down there to work with the immigrant community because a lot of folks had immigrated to come and help rebuild also.
Wow. And then they ended up staying down there afterwards. Wow.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So where were you born and raised then? You were a Midwesterner first?
Yeah, Chicago suburbs. Shout out to the Chicagoland area, as we call it.
Which one? I've got a couple friends. Where are you at?
Elmhurst, Western suburbs.
Okay, Western. I've got somebody's in Aurora, somebody's in Galena. We've had different, oh gosh, they're going to hate me. They're going to listen to this podcast and be like, Mag, you didn't say my hometown. Okay, so Chicago suburbs. Tell us about the thrifting out there. What did you experience?
I didn't thrift at all when I lived there growing up. It was the thing that friends at high school who were cooler than I were would go and come back with some amazing 1970s jacket they'd found. And it wasn't even really on my radar. So now when I go home to visit my parents who still live there, I always go to the local Goodwill. There used to be a resale shop in downtown Amherst that I miss a lot, but I don't get to do as extensive thrifting there because I'm usually spending time with family and friends. So I'll let the other folks who live in that area speak to that.
I love it that you have literally a Hurricane Katrina thrift story. That's pretty darn special. Okay. All right. So then you replant and now you're in New England then?
I moved from Biloxi to Atlanta for about 8 years, did grad school, got married, and the thrift scene there is incredible.
Yes.
Like the Goodwill of Northwest Georgia is fantastic. And there were probably 8 or 10 Goodwills that I could drive to within 15 or 20 minutes of my house or work. And then there were independent ones. There were tiny ones, big warehouse ones. It was all over. The options were endless. We're going back there in a couple weeks for vacation, and I'm prepping my family now. Like, you might not see me for a full day while I go visit all my
yes
stores.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so currently I'm
outside Boston.
Oh my God, you've been everywhere. Okay. So you've seen it all. What's happening in Boston? What's the jazz with Boston? And they've got really great estate sales in Boston too, right?
Yeah, they're good estate sales. They're good. Our community has a really good, like, everything's free page on Facebook, and you can just leave stuff out. Walking to the school or to the grocery store, you'll often see people are leaving stuff on the side of the road. There's that culture of, hey, I don't need it anymore, but you can use it.
Tell us more about that, because I just discovered the everything's free pages that my sister-in-law's in Summit County here in Colorado. Walk us through what that is, just in case what is that? How do I find it?
So most of the ones I've seen have been on Facebook. And what happens is you have something in your house that you want to get rid of. You take a picture of it, you post it on that Facebook page, and then different groups have different rules about who. Maybe you say, everybody comment who wants it, and then I'll pick someone, or first come, first served. If it's something that they need to come pick up at your house versus, hey, I'm just letting everybody know this is on the curb. Whoever gets it first, I don't care. It's not my business anymore. So there's lots of different ways to do it. It's a great group. People will say, oh, my kid's moving into their first apartment and their job doesn't start until a month from now, and they don't have money to go buy. Who can furnish their kitchen? Or I have a refugee family I'm working with. Who's got stuff for their kids? And then you can also say, I'm looking for this thing. Does anyone have one kicking around that they don't really need? So it's a great community building and resource recycling setup.
Yeah, I love this. And I really feel like if people don't know, go check it out in your area. I think they exist on, like you said.
Yeah, see if you have one. Yeah, there are a lot of them around.
All right, so you're in the Boston area, but Boston suburbs. What other kind of great thrift can we expect? I know people are already asking, where should I go for the summer? Is it worth it? Is Boston area worth it?
That's a good question. If you're in Boston proper, you got to go to the garment district, which is the downstairs floor of that is clothing by the pound. It's an adventure. Yeah. I went to college in Boston, so I have vivid memories of being like up to my knees in like random clothes and looking through. And on a college budget, it was great. And then upstairs they have vintage and like higher quality secondhand finds. And there's a lot of them. So that's almost more for the experience than anything else. There are a lot of great little secondhand stores, consignment in Cambridge, Somerville. Because it's such a dense city, there aren't a lot near Boston that have big square footage. You kind of have to go even past my suburb and out further. And there's like Savers, for example, big square footage. So like that's where I go when my kids need something specific, because I know like they have high volume. It's likely that I'll find something there. But my two favorite to go to are local ones that are not chains. One is just in the next town over, and it's a half consignment, half thrift. It's small, but the selection's really good. And I'm friends with the manager because I'm there all the time. Like, we always chat when I go in, which is a great feeling. And their profits go towards a program for young adults who have traumatic brain injuries or developmental disabilities to train them to restore furniture. And so that's a mission I can definitely get behind. So that's a lot of fun. And then there's one that's Restoration Project in Belmont for anyone who's listening in the Boston area. And then Global Thrift in Waltham is like a warehouse size, but independent. And they've got awesome murals on the wall. They're always playing good music. The prices are reasonable. And I have found a lot of gems there. So that one's it's a little bit further, 20 minutes from my house, but I always find something good.
So when you're thinking that South area that you really got started in versus the New England area, and even your Chicago, when you go back, you've got it good where you are, you're happy with the thrifting scene?
I have made it work for me. I do miss the Atlanta thrift scene, but that's okay.
All right, guys, you heard it here, Atlanta. I do have to ask you, you talked about a couple places that, have a purpose. When you're shopping thrift, and we just spoke to someone from eBay yesterday, and they did this like 2026 report. I was so excited to read it. And they really say that people that shop secondhand do shop for a purpose. What are your thoughts on that? Does that mean something to you when you're making a buying decision?
Yeah, I do. I look for how do people treat their employees? What's the policy for if you have folks with intellectual or developmental disabilities? Are they getting paid minimum wage? That's not the only determining factor for me, but I like to be aware of that. And for me, thrifting, I'm a pastor, and so I think about things theologically, and thrifting is for me a way to say, hey, this thing that somebody else threw out, I can give it a new life. I can keep it going sustainably. It's a lot of fun for me to think about it from that perspective, but I do try to keep an eye on what are the values of the place. And I once got in trouble several years ago. I got asked as part of my blog to write a sponsored post, which only happened once in my life. And they said, here's X amount of money to go shop at our thrift store. And when I was writing about it on my blog later, I said, just so you know, this is not a nonprofit. They're for profit. But they tell you if you donate stuff to them that their partners get a certain amount of the percentage. And I said, that's fine. The way I wanted to be really transparent about the way that they were talking about it. It sounded like they were a nonprofit, but they weren't. And they were not pleased. And I was very upfront about that. And I said, I didn't have a huge audience, but I said, my audience trusts me. That's the relationship that I've built. So I'm going to be upfront about where your dollars are going for this. And I think thrifting is always a good place to put dollars because you're keeping things in circulation and it's great for the planet, but it's always good to do your homework too.
Yeah. And I would love that. If you were writing a blog for me, I'd want you to, but I'm a nonprofit. So I guess they were trying to put on that hat to make it seem, that's a shame. Okay. Yeah. We will not shout them out. That wouldn't be right. But I love that you're talking about how your passion for being a preacher and all of these things go into it. You actually refer to yourself as a thrift evangelist, which is hilarious. And I totally love it. So walk us through that, because I think you're tying it to your theological and philosophical thinking is a cool way to look at thrifting.
Yeah, I have spent a lot of years doing this, and I sometimes I think maybe this is common for thrifters. We don't always realize how much knowledge we have and how we know how to walk into a thrift store and just immediately assess, like, how am I going to conquer the space? What's my route going to be? What am I looking for? Normal people who don't thrift walk in and feel overwhelmed.
It's harder for them. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to look for. Everything's way cheaper than retail. So they're like, I just buy everything. And so one of my goals is, first of all, if people ask me where I got something, I'm always going to say, oh, thank you, it's thrifted, right? Mm-hmm. And then inviting people who are thrift curious maybe to come check it out with me, and I'm their guide. And I love thrifting by myself, especially if my family's not there, to be like, why are we still here, Mom? Can we go? Yeah. And having that kind of creative space. But I think I even love more bringing friends with, because I can use that expertise, those skills I have, to make it a really pleasant experience for them. Like when I was in junior high school and my mom would take me shopping for clothes, she would come and bring me like, oh, that size didn't work. I'll get you the next one. Oh, this looked cute. Do you want to try it? Now I do that with my friends. A friend of mine who was getting ready for her kids' b'nai mitzvah, which is like the gender inclusive term for bat or bar mitzvah, needed a dress for the event and wanted to thrift it, but was like, I can't, it's too much overstimulation. And I was like, come friend, I will show you. So we've done stuff for her work outfits too. Went through and said, hold up a couple pieces that you like so I can get an idea of what you're looking for. And then I'm just going to go through and pull stuff and say, yes, no, what do you like the color, but not the style, or vice versa? Great. And we ended up finding her a great dress that was the wrong size. So I came home and used all my secondhand online skills. And an hour later, I'd sent her the 4 or 5 links to find it secondhand online. And she was like, oh my gosh, I never would have, this would have taken me hours and I wouldn't have found anything.
Officially like a thrift Sherpa. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to facilitate that for people, or there are people who will say, hey, can you look for this for me? And so I always have an eye out for that. There's somebody that I'm always looking for Golden Girl stuff for them, or a certain hockey team that they like, or so that's always in the back of my mind too.
That brings up a good question then. Is it okay to thrift a gift? Has the tide changed?
If the tide hasn't changed, I've been going the wrong way for years. I thrift so many things. I was actually just thinking about a friend who lived in Atlanta loved Michael Jackson, and she doesn't have a record player, but I found a Michael Jackson record that she could display at the thrift store. And she had thought, "Oh, gross, thrift store. I don't think I want other people's stuff." And then she had it in her home and she was like, "This is actually really cool."
It's cool. It's a talking
Yeah.
point and it's vintage. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I thrift birthday gifts. I just saw this and thought of you gifts. We thrift a bunch of our home decor and practical stuff. Yeah. If it's thriftable, I probably have gotten it for somebody at some point.
Yeah. And I think that is changing. And that actually made that eBay report too, that thrifting a gift is like becoming just more acceptable. So we're on our way. It gives me a lot of hope for the future. I'm like really crossing my fingers that we can continue. I do want to ask about this blog because I think first of all, you're an excellent writer, but you have like such good info in here. Is there any chance, did the blog lead to the Instagram?
Yeah, the blog was a lot of work behind the scenes. And so when kid number 2 came along, I just didn't have the bandwidth for it.
Sure.
And Instagram felt like an easy way it still takes up a chunk of time to get an outfit picture and post it and everything, but it was an easy way to get thrift inspiration out there, talk a tiny bit about it, and then move on with my day. If I had all the time in the world, I'd probably do YouTube or something to talk more about some of the stuff that I discuss on my blog.
Sure.
But I made it work for my life.
And the cool thing is you can evolve as your kids get older. You can make the move to YouTube. We just made the move to YouTube. And let me tell you, I went kicking and screaming. I was like, seriously, I literally don't want to have to get dressed in the morning. I can just put my hair in a bun and not have to worry about it. But it has been fun. And it does allow us to like, show more and get excited more. And it's important. We can't just stay where we are. So I look forward to once your kids are older, making the move. And speaking of kids, I don't want to ask their names or anything, but age group, are you giving them the love of thrift? Talk about that.
Yes. So I have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, and most of their clothes are thrifted. Halloween costumes are thrifted. They know that if there's something that they need, the first place we're going to think about finding it is either thrifting or online, secondhand. And so that's a culture that I'm trying to raise them in. Like this, see if you can get creative with this. And from the time they were little, you get lots of presents for babies and kids. And we haven't thrown those clothes out or anything. We've gratefully accepted those. I'd say, oh my gosh, my kid outgrew this or got a hole in this that I can't fix because I'm not a great clothing repairer, unfortunately. The first place I'm going to go is the thrift store. My 7-year-old decided that he wanted to wear nothing but tank tops in February in Boston.
Perfect place. Yeah.
Was I going to go to a retail store and pay 10 or 15 bucks a pop? No, I was going to go to the thrift store and pay $3.75 a pop, and brought them back for him. And he doesn't really know any different. So he just was like, "Oh, thank you. These are so great. Can you get me more?" So
he's building his own personal style. I have a show note in here, and really you can define your personal style through thrifting, right?
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm not like a Pinterest parent. I don't have a lot of creativity for birthday parties and that kind of stuff, but I will thrift you an amazing Halloween costume. The Global Thrift, the one that's about 20 minutes from my house, has a great Halloween section. Everything is super affordable, especially if you put it off and go at the last minute and the costumes are half price.
Oh yeah. Everything's half off. Yeah. We're trying to get rid of it at that point.
Yeah, so I'm going to see. I don't show my kids' faces online, so I'm not going to show my kid's face. I'm going to cover it, but I don't know if you could see on here, but we had a stormtrooper.
Oh yeah, amazing. Is that Hamilton?
That's Alexander Hamilton, yes. And we thrifted every part of that costume, including the necktie was a lacy like window valance, like the part of curtains. I was like, we're going to make this work. Yes. And I found this velvet over like an adult brown long velvet blazer that I was like, that will look like a frock coat.
Yeah.
We just had a ton of fun with it. Yeah.
And you can and when it's a Halloween costume for the kids, you can cut it up and get out your hot glue gun and get really crazy with it. I love this. I'm curious about this influx of young people to thrift stores. And are you seeing more fellow thrifters and resellers out there in your community at thrift stores that are young as well?
I see Boston's a big college town, right? So I see a lot of like high school, college age folks who come in and are looking for, I think it used to be more, I'm going to come find a cool Halloween costume. I need a blank shirt to do this project. And now they're coming to find outfits like style, which I think is amazing. Yeah. And it actually, I wrote quite a while ago on my blog about Does thrifting lead to gentrification? Because most of the folks I see are folks who are shopping because that's in their budget, right? And prices have gone up over the last 5-10 years. There's no getting around that. But I had talked to a couple different folks about that from the management perspective, and they were like, we need the college kids who've got money to spend. We need the folks who come in that maybe they could shop retail, but it's more fun or more interesting to do that because we need the volume. We need as many people coming in here to shop as possible so that it stays open for folks who are doing it because that's their financially like viable option. And that kind of stuck with me because I was worried, like, am I taking clothes away from folks who need it? Because I'm very lucky to be able to be financially stable. And that was like, oh, maybe we're contributing to this economy where enough people want this that it's not going to go away in the near future.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me happy that you're getting that vibe there, because there's always this, people ask that question all the time. Am I taking away from others that might need it more? But we have the exact same philosophy. We need as many people as possible to keep this going. And if you don't come, like, it's going to be a problem for us. Are you seeing like the thrift stores in your area? And I always ask this because I've heard horror stories of like thrift stores printing out like what they think they can get for it on eBay and all sorts of nonsense. Are you have any of that kind of vibe happening in Boston?
It's hit or miss. My husband loves guitars, and so I always will check guitars for him when I see them. Those you can some with that kind of more niche stuff where it looks like, ooh, maybe I can get money for these cool sneakers or this vintage guitar or whatever. Most places are savvy enough to go online and figure out what that's worth now, I think. Like, it's just 20 years ago, people weren't on the internet selling nearly as much as they are. So that's changed. But for everyday stuff like clothing that's not obvious that it's a ball gown or whatever, that's hit or miss. Sometimes I'll think, why is this like generic big box store top $15? No one's going to pay for that. And then I'll find cashmere that somebody didn't realize was cashmere and it's $8.
Yeah.
It can be pretty variable. And there are definitely times where the price of something is, it's not worth it. And so I wonder if thrift stores that do that are maybe doing themselves a disservice because enough of us are like, no, we're not going to pay that. We would have bought it if it were maybe $5 cheaper, but I think when you go a lot to thrift stores, you get this sense of, except for unicorns, like this, I'll find another one like this.
Yeah.
I have said no often enough to something and then maybe thought about it again later and found something similar or even better. So I'm not going to pay. This sounds so silly because all this stuff retail would be, my husband was complaining about not being able to find men's jeans at the thrift store. And he said, they're, even if you find good ones, they're $15. And I was like, that those would be $60 or $70 retail.
$70 retail. Yes.
So thrifters, we have this perspective problem where we're like, why would you pay $14 for this? Yeah. And that's still really good compared to retail. But I think when you're used to that world and then you see prices start to creep up or mismatch the quality of something, then you're like, nah, I'm gonna do it.
And it's so hard to strike a balance. For us, I always want there to be that one like rogue thing, like the cashmere that someone didn't recognize. I want that to happen. Because what happens, that person is, I'm going back. That's my gem.
Yeah, it's magical.
Right? Yeah. They gatekeep it. They love it. But your husband touched on a massive problem right now. It's men's clothing is like the hardest for us. We do this annual jean sale. You and your husband should come out for it. $2 jeans, and he could stock up. But let me tell you, the first rack to go is that men's section. It's so hard for us. I think men, first of all, they only donate if their wife is doing it for them. They wear their clothes longer, and that may be a stereotype, but it really is the hardest section for us to keep really stocked is that men's jean. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. He is not wrong. And I really do think that striking a balance is interesting. But I love hearing about Boston because that tells me that they are leaving some gems for you. They're not overpricing on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's a training program out there that we can buy as thrift stores where we can train how to price. It's not like regular retail. It really is fascinating. Some back rooms, your most seasoned pricer is that ladies pricer. Why? It's our biggest category. Number 2, furniture. It's some dude who knows furniture and knows all the particle board versus real wood. That's number 2. But it's so hard to really strike a balance of finding the good stuff and not shooting ourselves in the foot and having too many gems out there. We got to charge what we got to charge because, like you said, I pay my employees at or above minimum wage, regardless of their cognitive disability. Come on now. That's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And getting to talk to people like you all over the country to get a feel for it is very interesting to me. Sorry, I'm going off track here. I do.
No, that's great. I will pay more money for something that I know is high quality. So I'm more like, this is from some place that's not worth that much. But I like, yes, please charge what things are worth that are good quality, because like you all are trying to keep a business going and keep people employed. Like, I'm for that.
It's so interesting. Yeah. I just got tagged in a really odd, like someone at Goodwill apparently a vase was priced wrong and the cashier said, oh, we didn't price that high enough. He can't do that. You know what I mean? It's so funny. Some of the stuff online I see. In a million years, if you would ask me 5 years ago, I would have been like, no one cares about thrifting as much as we do because we're in it. It's insane. There's so many people and your community is just thriving. Talk about that. The people who support you. Tell us about the people that you're like bringing them into this world and engaging with online.
Online? Yeah, there's a lot of folks there's a big thrift space online, right? And there are people who are doing it like I am, where it's this like 95%, like I'm going to try and do as much as I can. There are people who are doing it creatively, upscaling stuff or upcycling stuff. And I think most of the folks that I end up interacting with are people who care about kind of like personal style. Like, how do you put together a closet that works for you, that expresses yourself, and how that crosses over with thrifting? If you go on my page, am I the most creative dresser in the world? No, I'm not. I do know some very creative dressers who are thrifting everything, and I'm so inspired by them. And I love seeing what they're doing and thinking, oh, maybe I could add that element to my outfit. And it's so easy to do at a thrift store, right? You can afford to play with stuff. Yeah, which is part of the fun of it. And then there are just a lot of people who are really supportive and will say, oh, that's a great outfit. I love what you did with the color. My favorite reactions are like, you did not thrift that. Really? And I'm like, yes, you can thrift this. Because again, that's my sort of, please come into the world of thrifting and discover the gems that are to be found here. And speaking of which, and point you just made, I remember being in a thrift store in Atlanta years ago, right behind somebody who was checking out. And the manager of the store, whom again, ended up being friends with, was checking this woman's, it was like a sequined dress, and it was Marc Jacobs, and it was priced at $30, I want to say, maybe not even, maybe more like 15. And I'm not a high fashion person, but I knew enough to know that was designer. And he just looked at it and he was like,
he saw it.
Price this. Yeah. Went online later and looked up a similar item, and it was like $3,000. And she knew, she was coming through, and she was like, yeah, I get you guys. Like, yeah.
And she's a customer for life now.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have that moment, whether it's the thing that just is perfectly for you, or you get that amazing deal, that dopamine sticks with you, I feel, and you want to come back and see if you can make it happen again.
And you really are sharing it with people. I do have a show note here that I missed over. Are you doing thrift commissions? Are you personal shopping for people as a business? Is that happening? Are you thinking about it?
Not as a business. I have a full-time job, so I don't have the time to do that well. And I think, then this is no shade to resellers or to personal shoppers, I think for me, it would take the fun out of it if I were being paid. There'd be some pressure there.
Yeah, it becomes a job. Yeah.
Yeah, but we went to visit friends in Miami a couple of years ago, and this pair of Episcopal priests married to each other. And they had this like fundraiser at the church that was, everybody had to wear all white. And so my friend Sarah already had an all white outfit, but she was like, Mandy, her wife, didn't have anything. And I was like, how long does it take us to get to the Goodwill in Little Havana? I'm always pulling out my maps on my phone and figuring out where the nearest thrift store is. I'm sure that's a common experience.
Common trend. Yes.
So we ended up in the Goodwill, and I found this white jumpsuit for her that was just stunning. And I really wanted her to get it. And she was like, this doesn't feel like me. I don't feel comfortable in it. I just need something a little less body hugging. And I was like, okay. And put aside my dreams for this event and found her a white blazer and white pants. And then she already had a white shirt at home, I think. Mm-hmm. And she was just so thrilled with that outfit. I found a vintage blazer on that trip, and she was like, I'm paying for that as your finder's fee.
Yes.
So I was like, I will take payment in the form of you buying me something from the thrift store. That's fine. But it's a way to be creative. It's a way to introduce people to something new. And there's a satisfaction, I think, in sharing expertise. I think I'm in my 40s, and I think by the time you get to this point, you probably built up an expertise in something. And it's just it's a joy to get to share that with people and bring them along for the journey, show them what's possible. And then you see them when they find the thing that they love, or they come home with 5 new tops for work that cost what one shirt would have, or you see them wearing that thing in real life. It's a good feeling.
So satisfying that you brought them into this. And I love that in a million years, I never would have thought we'd do this podcast and someone would tell me that they've tied secondhand shopping to their faith. And I kind of love that. Can you speak to that? We don't do a lot of religion on this podcast, but can you speak to that at a little more, just a deeper level? Because I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah. For me, one of the big tenets of my faith is there's new life in places where we thought there was only death, right? And again, not to get into religion, but that idea of like, where was an end and now there's a beginning. That's true in nature. That's true in all the world's religions. That's true in humanism if you're not a person of faith. So I love that chance to go in there and create something new and bring it into my life in a way that it would have just been sitting out there on the rack. Somebody would have thrown it out. Somebody would have maybe thought, even things that have had stains on them. Again, I'm not a great clothes repairer, but I can get a stain out. There have been things that I bought that somebody at the checkout counter has been like, are you sure you want this? Yeah, this is not going to come out. And I'm like, oh, let me try. Watch me. And also wondering about the stories of the people who donated things. Sometimes you'll find like several amazing vintage sweaters, dresses, slacks, whatever. And you'll think, this came all from one person's closet, didn't it?
Yeah,
And
you can tell. You can tell.
Yeah. And did they die? Did they move into assisted living? That's, as a pastor, that's one of the big parts of my job is life transitions and aging. And you just kind of wonder, like, how did this all end up here? And was it hard for this person to say goodbye to it? And man, if it gets to keep living a good life as a piece of clothing in my closet,
yeah,
maybe I'm honoring the spirit of that person a little bit.
Yes.
So I live in that place in my head a lot. That might be too removed.
I think it's beautiful.
Like,
and it really, and it plays into this whole theory that it all comes back to the thrift store. I love that. And saving stuff from just going into oblivion. It gets to live another life in our stores. And it makes it worthwhile to me to go to work every day with all these kinds of things. So I love that.
Sure. Yeah. There was those golf umbrellas that are like big, like blue and white stripes.
Yeah.
Or I needed a big one for some reason. And I went to the local kind of smaller scale thrift store and knew that they would probably have one. And they did. And it had this guy's name taped on it. And I was like, I said to my friend Bob, the manager, I was like, tell me the story of Brad Washburn. Who is this? And he said, oh, he's this.
I remember that donation. Oh no.
No, because he's a famous photographer.
Oh.
They had some of his pieces and he said his daughter lives just down the hill. And so sorry, Brad, wherever you are. I can't remember if he died or if he was moving out of his house, but she had to figure out what to do with all his belongings. And now I think of Brad Washburn every time I get out this giant umbrella and his name's still taped on it. And just things have a life to them that I just like being connected to that sense of this served somebody else and now it gets to serve our family. And and rather than throw it out. And it has some stains and it's not perfect, but it's great for going to a baseball game when you're watching your kid and it's raining and you don't want to be soaked.
And it reminds me of the Day of Remembrance. In the Spanish culture, it's so important to like remember those people. So you're keeping that person alive. I kind of dig it.
Yeah.
Thrift store, very spiritual. We do have ghost stories from our stores too. I keep telling myself I'm going to do a full episode on some of the ghost stories of my stores because what better that is, if any place on earth is haunted, it's a thrift store. It has. I love it.
Like, I can't believe my daughter-in-law donated my favorite whatever and they're just haunting it.
100%. They stick with their stuff, especially like quilts and stuff. We're like convinced domestics department always has a high level of, or if we get an urn, that's always fun. That happens occasionally.
Yeah.
We try and be really careful about that, but let me tell you, it happens.
Are the cremains still in there?
It's happened before. Yes. That gets a little hairy. We try and most of those urns come with a sticker from the mortuary that they originally came from so we can get them back to those mortuaries, but it's happened. It's happened.
This is a niche. I need to offer my services to local thrift stores and be like, do you need just a way to just like
a blessing?
Ashes with a blessing. I'll do it. It can be interfaith. It can be non-religious, whatever. I'll do it. Because I would never have thought that you don't just pour the ashes in your backyard before you donate there. Oh, that's amazing.
It's happened. It's happened. We have the craziest stories. Someone needs to write a book. I can't believe it hasn't been written yet. It'll probably be why one of my managers eventually, because I'm always like, what do you got for me today? Tell me a story.
What's the craziest thing that happened in the last time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How about your unicorn item? Can you tell us like that one thing that you're like the most proud of, that's super cool that you found a thrift store, and whether you've kept it or resold it or given it away?
Yeah, man, there are so many amazing finds over the years. And part of my style has evolved in the last several years. So something that was a unicorn 10 years ago, I maybe have redonated. But I had one that's practical because I'm here for sourcing lots of different needs that people would normally retail, not just your stylish clothes. And another one's a fun find that I found recently. So the practical one, I do a lot of outdoor swimming in
Oh, you're
the
going to show us? Yay.
and then during the winter, I live about 15 minutes from Walden Pond where Thoreau wrote. And
Yes. That's
I'm very
cool.
lucky to be near it. Yeah. So a couple of friends and I will go cold water dipping every week. And it's
I'm not sure I know what cold water dipping is. Please explain.
just what it sounds like, Maggie. You go in your bathing suit. We do
In the dead of
booties.
winter? Don't you have like
Mhm.
feet of snow?
Neoprene booties that I use, what scuba divers would use, but I don't. Some people do wetsuits and they actually swim. We just go in bathing suits and you just walk out into the water. You stay as long as you feel comfortable, and then you come out and there's endorphins. There's
Natural cold plunge. I love it.
it's incredible. Yeah, it's a cold plunge basically, but it's incredibly beautiful. And then the three friends who go, one of us is, I'm here for like the spirituality of it. It's so beautiful, nature meditation. Another one is, can we say mild cussing on this?
Yes.
Okay. The other one's, I'm here because I feel like a badass when I do it.
There you go.
And my motivation is that inevitably somebody walks by and is, you guys are crazy.
You're crazy.
And just like spreading that joy of, I can't believe ridiculousness.
You won't believe what I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very handy. You got to be careful about hypothermia. So it's very handy to come out and have a dry robe to get into, which if you've ever watched like swimming Olympics or anything, it's those big, thick, kind of
Swim
oversized.
Coats.
Yeah.
Swim coats. My son has one for swimming.
Yeah, they use them for like movie sets too when it's cold, but people have to be wearing off the shoulder or whatever. So dry robes cost $200. This one I found at the thrift. My friend Sharon actually found it for me. I called Bob, the manager, and said, can you please hold that for me? And then I came and bought it for $25. And it's from a local
swim team. Yes, the swim team.
I don't know who Maria is, but it's Maria's.
We're giving Maria's swim coat another life. She had a great high school experience in that thing, and then she gave up swimming and went to college. I love it.
Yeah. So it says I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it says BAT on the back. So
even better.
Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. And then another one that I just found recently in my other favorite local thrift store is this. It's a J. Crew tuxedo.
Perfect.
Blazer.
Baby blue. Oh my God, it's in excellent condition.
It's perfect. Look at that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The grocery, I don't know how to pronounce that, a ribbon. And it's 2 sizes smaller than my regular size, which is what I always tell people is go by the eyeballing it or how it fits. Don't go by the label because
you never know.
I looked at it and I thought, I think that's my size. It retails for $330 and it was $10 at the thrift store. So I'm a blazer fan. So I'm gonna wear this to church. I
dress up a black dress with it. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
You could do so much. And that's my church ladies will always tell them, I always get the compliments if I have a good outfit. So, yes, there's a high bar there. And some of them are thrifters too. They'll be like, can we have a thrift fashion show? We do a big rummage sale once a year. And I found lots of good stuff there as well. Somebody will donate all their mother's vintage blazers and I'll be like, thank you. Yeah.
So many good things. It does all come back to the thrift store. I kind of love that.
It does.
What do you want to manifest? What do you want to put out there?
Oh, Maggie, I would love a colorful 2-piece suit. So like the blazer and the trousers that go together. You can tell I'm a color person, and I can find great blazers, and I found some great pants. Somebody wore these vintage
those
trousers.
are lovely. Yes. But they're like literally butter yellow.
Yes. Which is my favorite yellow. Somebody I know wore this to golfing and bingo in Florida. And then we have a lot of snowbirds in Boston. So I'm sure this is the previous life of this. So I can find the great tops and the great bottoms, but I have yet to find a suit that is like meant to go together. And that would I lied though. Actually, I found a short suit.
Oh my God. That is so cute. That is so Heather McDonald. That's gorgeous.
It's polyester, so it's on the cheap side, but guess what? It worked perfect for Halloween. We did an inclusive community prom, and then our church marches in the Boston Pride Parade. And so I was Barbie pastor in this.
Yes.
I got like the
sash. Yes.
Yeah.
I can see that.
This is from Etsy. I got this. This is not secondhand, but
gorgeous.
I got the glitter.
Perfect.
So that I would love a full length version of the colorful suit.
And in your color palette, which I want to ask you about, because I do feel like your aesthetic on your Instagram is so your color palette. So walk us through that, because there's such a trend on TikTok for finding your ideal color palette.
Yeah, so I got tired of thrifting an amazing piece and then feeling like washed out in it or I looked sick. And I got curious enough about it. I'd heard of Color Me Beautiful from the 80s. I was like, this is a thing, isn't it?
It's
There's
real.
been,
Yeah.
yeah, there's been, I think there used to be 4 seasons in the 80s. Now there are systems that have 12 seasons or 16 seasons. And the idea is that certain colors naturally harmonize with your hair, your complexion, your eyes.
Sure.
And that doesn't have to be like hard and fast rules. One of my favorite sweaters is not in my color palette at all. But that if you know what the colors are, then you can use them to your advantage. You can play around with them. So I just decided, instead of continuing to waste money on clothes that eventually make me feel like I don't reach for them anymore, why don't I pay somebody to do a personal color analysis? So I found somebody in Cambridge, right near Boston, to do it. And she was great. And people do want to do it online, and it's either free or very cheap and accessible, which I get, but it's really hard to do over the internet because monitor colors and lighting. And I think if you've been frustrated trying to figure out what season you are, only doing it online, there's probably a reason. Like it probably would be a better result in person, but it's not cheap because people go through a lot of training to be able to do this. Anyway, long story short, I found a color palette, and it makes thrifting so much easier because I literally walk down the aisle and I go, nope, oh, that's one of my
This
colors.
is
And
my
I don't like
color.
it.
Yeah.
So that I'm also one of those people who, when I have some limits, that sparks creativity for me. So I like the fact that when I walk into the thrift store, it's not the whole thing that's open to me. It's these specific colors I'm looking
That's
for.
a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But
I'm making notes
yeah,
of
learning
this.
spark creativity. So like knowing, okay, you can play with these colors, go see what you can make out of this. That's a lot of fun for me. It's also a game. It took me a while to train my eye. Oh, this looks like my yellow, for example, but it's actually too warm or too bright
Interesting.
and again, like you can fudge it, you can play with it. It's just a good tool to have in your toolbox.
Can we
And
ask you how much it costs to get this color palette reading? Because someone on here is going to go, I need a color palette reading. Can you give us a ballpark? Is it super expensive?
like depending, there's some good online ones where they take pictures in certain lighting and have you send them in, and those can be like $120.
Yeah.
And then maybe $250 to $300 for in person. I asked for it as like a couple of combined people's Christmas presents one year.
Yeah.
And that's in the Boston area. Things are a lot more expensive here than some other parts of the country.
Sure. I love the
But
idea of a
like,
color palette party for ladies. Get together. Let's get someone to come in and tell 5 of us what our color palettes are. I love this.
yeah.
So fascinating. And once again, helps you shop thrift store, which is always nice. This is off topic, but I did want to ask you this because I had a note. You're a reader. What was your 2025 book of the year? You have one?
Two.
Do you really do one book a week? Is that real? Do you really do 52 books a year?
No, I do more like 80 to 100 books.
Oh my gosh. You just share about the 52. Guys, this content is in Leah's highlights on her Instagram. Worth it. I screenshotted 25 books.
Yes.
In just the last 2 years of your content.
It's so funny, Maggie, because I am not in my faith life. I'm not an evangelist. I'm like, people's faith business is their own business. But if I'm trying to get people to read a good book or go thrifting, I'm like, you've got it. It's so good. You need to do it. So it gives me a lot of joy when people go and say, oh, I read a book that you recommended. And then we chat about it. And that's my favorite thing to do. I loved The Dry Season by Melissa Fubos. It's a woman who decides to be celibate for a year and see what that does to her internal life and her spiritual life, her creative life. She's a writer professionally, and I'm excited to read a couple more of her books this year. So that was probably my top book for the year.
I had to ask. I'm obsessed. I love it that you shared every one of them too. I was impressed, but now I got to call my producer and go, no, it was more like 80 books a year. That's pretty awesome.
I had a sabbatical a couple of years ago, and I got over 100, and I was like, that's not going to happen again because I had so much time to read. But Yeah, there's a lot of, I do a lot of literary fiction, historic, like Regency romance, some nonfiction in there.
You
But
got a
yeah,
great mix of all sorts of things.
yeah, I do a lot of queer romance. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So go, if any of that sounded
Anything
interesting.
you want is in there. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Anything next? Any big goals for the year?
Thrifting wise, or just
On
into,
anything you want to put out in the universe?
ooh,
I know that's such a loaded question
big
now that I
one.
put it that way.
That's a big one. I have, and this is related to somebody who's a thrifter online that whom I really admire. I have just a couple things on my bucket list, and one of them is to be thanked in somebody's book acknowledgments.
Oh, wow.
Because I am not, at least at this point in my life, I'm not a book writer, but I love supporting my friends on their creative journeys. Especially as I've gotten older. If my friends are doing something amazing, like I just want to cheer them on for that. That's one of my favorite ways to show up in the world. And my internet friend, Adina, who is at Blue Collar Red Lipstick, she vlogs about her, and her thrifting wardrobe is just incredible.
I
It's
feel
so
like we
great.
might have had her on the pod before. This sounds really familiar.
She's Canadian. Does that sound? I don't know.
Probably. Oh, we love the Canadians on this podcast. They do amazing thrift.
Yeah, her thinking about thrift and her writing about thrift is really good. But I'm trying to make sure I have the letters right on her Instagram handle, but it's BCRL, Blue Collar Red Lipstick, Adina, ADINAJ. BCRLADINAJ. She's fantastic. And she's also an incredible writer. And because we had bonded over thrifting stuff and style and fashion, and she knew that I read a lot, she said, "Hey, will you read my beta draft? Will you be one of my
What an
beta readers?"
honor to have someone read. Wow, what an honor.
I was like, okay. But I knew I had some good editing skills, and I have to write a sermon every week. So I'm good at looking at something and going, this doesn't need to be here. Let's move this around. And she had come out with a murder mystery, like golden era British detective story that had a little bit of romance in it. And she said, "Will you be a beta reader for it?" And I said, "Yes, I will." So I've beta read 3 of her books. She's got one of them out now. And I got to be in the book acknowledgments. I
That's
was like,
amazing.
oh, my dream has come true. So
Yes.
I would love to continue doing that. I have another friend whose memoir I edited, who's hopefully getting published this year. So just like continuing to be part of someone's story as they're doing something that they really want to see brought to life is really rewarding to me. So maybe something like that where, I get to be up in front of people. They have to listen to me every week in my congregation. So getting to be a little bit behind the scenes and cheering someone else on, like that would be fun to do more.
Exciting. Yeah. And for them to acknowledge it. What an honor to read someone's personal work like that it's got to be rewarding. I love that. Okay. So that's what's next. What about anyone else that you want to shout out that you're following on social media that we can't miss out on? And we're going to find you, Adina. I feel like she's been on this pod, especially if she's a Canadian. We had this whole series of amazing Canadian secondhand. They know it. They do it. It's a lifestyle, no?
Yeah. I am continually in awe of watching what she puts together. My other favorite thrifter online sounds very similar, Dina from Dina's Days.
Oh, we've had Dina's Days. She has a podcast called Thanks, It's Thrifted.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe just bringing that back into people's consciousness.
Yes.
She's really good at talking about the process of thrift and doing the behind the scenes. And look what I thrifted. She goes to the Goodwill bins a lot, like the kind of wholesale is not the right word, but where you can go and buy everything for very little.
Yeah.
And I give her a lot of credit for that because I don't think I'd be able to. I think I would get overwhelmed by it. Maybe I would be like the newbie thrifter is to me. But yeah, she's got great style and also has an online shop that you can find some of her stuff. It's neat to be connected to people that I never would meet in real life, just geographically, we're too far apart. And to see be inspired by their thrifting, be inspired by their style, which is often very different from mine. But then there are these little places of overlap, or I could do that silhouette, I could make work even if I would do different colors or vice versa. So that's been a lot of I'm a visual inspiration person. I need to be able to see stuff to figure out how to translate it into my closet. Getting to do that online is a lot of fun for me.
It really is. This community, I'm always blown away. I meet somebody new and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know about this content before. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I always say that this podcast is devoted to normalizing secondhand, but you're living this lifestyle out loud. So thank you for your service to our industry. We are eternally grateful. Keep doing it. Never stop.
you so much. Yeah.
It's very important to us to keep this community going and moving forward. And you're spreading the good word. That's how we look at it.
Yep. Do my
And
best.
as we wrap up every pod, we like to give a shout out to my personal queen, one Miss Dolly Parton. Thoughts, feelings, anything you'd like to say to her about Dolly
So
Parton?
Dolly Parton was not really part of my life until maybe 5 years ago. Just didn't My parents listened to different kind of music and I just
Sure.
didn't really know much about her. And then I listened to this 9-episode podcast called Dolly Parton's America.
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah.
know it?
Yes, I do. It's very good.
By Jad Abumrad from Radiolab. And it was a crash course in kind of the phenomenon that is Dolly. And as you probably remember from the podcast, the reason that Jad Abumrad did this project is because his dad, who's a doctor at Vanderbilt in Tennessee, treated Dolly for minor injuries from a car crash, and they became. Yeah, I guess he grew up in a tiny town in Lebanon in the mountains, and she grew up in the mountains, and they just hit it off.
Oh.
And so my favorite thing about Dolly, and I do enjoy her music, and I loved figuring out the culture impact that she's had through that, listening to that podcast. But my favorite thing about her, as a pastor, I'm always thinking about what kind of power do we have and how can we use it? How can we use it for good? And she's great at that. And what struck me was in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, that she donated $1 million to the vaccine effort through Vanderbilt in honor of Dr. Abumrad, Jad's dad. And it was like, oh yeah, this is what, if you're a celebrity and you have that much money, this is what you should be doing with your money. Like you should be advancing the common good. And so it just made me think about, okay, I'm obviously not a celebrity. I don't have that big of a platform, but I have some platform. I have an Instagram platform. I have a church that has to listen to me every week. How can I use my platform and how can I use the power that I have? Because there are a lot of ways that I'm really privileged. So what can I do to create space for folks and amplify voices and create some change in my community that's going to be positive and lead towards more justice and more inclusion and thriving?
I love it. Justice and inclusion, things that Dolly Parton cares about. I love it.
Yeah, I need one of those, those like candles that you light that have a saint on them.
Oh, yeah.
I know she has definitely has to have made one for, yes, exactly.
There's actually like a series of 10. I only have 4, but they're amazing.
You're going to collect them all.
Literally, one at a time. People send them to me. This one is my newest one. And this is like full hair Dolly. Yeah.
Yes. I feel like it's almost like the halo effect, right? Yeah. That's you need the full hair.
Yeah. Then she's got like ones for each era of her hair. So I always like to collect that. I love it. Thank you for playing along with that. And it really does all come back to the thrift store and Dolly Parton. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And make sure you tell our listeners once again how they find you on Instagram, give you a follow, ask you all the questions, send you their love, and join your following.
Thrift Shop Chic on Instagram. And I don't do like everyday outfits. It's not every single day that I'm posting, but I usually try to get a couple outfits in a week. And yeah, you can find a lot of books there too. So
yeah, all 52 weeks. Not a problem. You can find one for every week. I love it. Thanks for joining us, Leah. Really appreciate it. You're an absolute delight. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Take care.
Thrifties, thanks so much for listening to the Get Thrifty podcast. Reminder, save our pod and leave us a 5-star review about how funny, creative, and smart we are. And if you're part of this unique thrift culture and you'd like to be on this podcast, find me on Instagram at Podcast with Maggie. And as always, please follow ARC on Instagram at ARC Thrift, and now on TikTok at ARC Thrift Stores and YouTube at ARC Thrift. Thanks so much and have a wonderful week.
Hunt for it, find it, make it your own. It's the Get Thrifty Podcast.